Hi, hello. My name's Tony. I'd like to share my story with you. Actually, I was going to use an artificial voice because I don't really like the sound of my own, but it did sound too artificial. More like the late Stephen Hawkins, I think. No disrespect to that great man, may he rest in peace. But then I thought, at least I've got a voice I can use, so use it. And as for my appearance, well, the image you see here is actually better than my own, so I think we'll stick with it. Anyway, back to my story. It's about chasing your dreams and making them happen. No doubt there are many of you folk out there with similar stories, all chasing your own dreams and trying to make them a reality. And I'm just one of many I know. I'm just an ordinary guy, happily married, with a regular job. And my dream is to get all my written projects off the computer and onto the shelves of high street bookstores. No easy task, I can tell you. But this story isn't just about aspiring authors. It's for anyone with dreams and ambitions to fulfill. So anyway, I've always had plenty of hobbies, especially in my younger years, but over time they seem to have all fallen by the wayside, except for my reading and writing. In fact, they took on a whole new meaning when I became a family man and took on the responsibilities of married life, as you do. It was then that I began to write in earnest, even though it was still only a hobby. The thought of getting any of my work published had never even entered my mind, until one day I was visiting my dad. We were in one of our deep and meaningful discussions. You know the ones: our place in the universe, are we alone, why do pigeons insist on walking around in the middle of a busy highway? Very deep indeed, right? Then we watched a movie, and afterwards he pulled it to pieces. An annoying little habit of his. I remember him saying that I could write a better storyline than that. Then our discussion turned onto the subject of my writing, when he turned around and said, "Well, why don't you?" He was of course referring to my submitting one of my projects to a publisher. Well, those four fateful words set me on my quest. I chose one of my projects, prepared it, and after a few months submitted it to a publisher. But I was unsuccessful. There were many more rejections to follow. Demoralized, I thought that maybe my book wasn't up to it. But my love for writing spurred me on. I turned to self-publishing, and asked for a bit of work and a small outlay. Hooray, success! Of a kind. I had an ebook on Amazon, and printed versions were to follow. At first, I had a steady flow of sales. Surprising, really, because I was a new and unknown author. However, my delight was short-lived. Over that year, sales dropped off and trickled to a standstill. Sales of my printed book I could count on one hand. Not surprising, really, because I was having trouble getting it onto the shelves of bookstores. My marketing skills leave a lot to be desired, I know, but I thought I might have some chance, since a lot of bookstores are now accepting books by self-publishers. A bit naive of me to think that at the time. Anyway, whilst all this was happening, or rather not happening, I managed to finish off the sequel to my first book. But which path do I take? Self-publishing or traditional? I chose traditional, and yes, I was again rejected. Several times, in fact. Then I had some feedback from one publisher that turned out to be a hybrid of traditional and self-publishing. Having heard about these vanity publishers, as they have come to be known, and even read a lot of negative reviews about them, I still decided to take a chance. I know what you're all thinking, that there's one born every day. But hey, I'm chasing my dreams, right? So, after a small outlay, I accepted a contract from them, And now, after 1 year, the sequel to my first book has been published in all 3 formats: ebook, paperback, and hardback. But, once again, I'm still waiting for it to appear on the shelves of high street bookstores. I know it's early days yet, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my publisher will come through for me. After all, they are the professionals, right? I'm not sure where this quote originally came from, but my dear late dad used to say that everyone has a novel in them. I'm sure there must be someone out there who knows where this quote originally came from. Maybe you can let me know. Thinking back, I wonder, was all this just an ego trip? Well, I suppose so at first, but let's face it, any one of us must have some amount of ego to presume to create, right? But no, I now realise that it wasn't just my ego. It was my quest and my love for books written by talented writers that drove me on. In this digital world that we now live in, I personally feel the physical book is finding it hard to keep its head above water. I know there are many of you like-minded people out there that still prefer to feel a crisp new page as it is turned over. Even the smell of a newly printed book rouses our senses. The artistry of the coverwork allures us. The back cover blurb entices us, and together the two hook us like a fish caught on the end of a fishing line. Save the book, I cry, waving my campaign banner. Parents, please encourage your children to read and write more. I know this is easier said than done, what with both children these days spending most of their free time on digital devices of one form or another. Teach by example. Read and write with them. Who knows, you may even have the next J.K. Rowling or Dan Brown in your midst. If you can just drag them away from their brainwashing distractions, that is. Well, enough campaigning. My story so far, as you can see, is still a work in progress. But for anyone who might be just a little curious or would like to know a little bit more about me or my books, please visit my website at www.anthonykeyfineread.com. I will be keeping you all updated with my story as it unfolds. And if you would like to share your own story, have any questions, or maybe even advice, please feel free to contact me. Anyway, I think that's enough for now, so bye-bye, and don't forget, watch this space.